NFL officials make all sorts of mistakes. It comes with the territory. Most of those mistakes are what we'd classify as judgment calls, but sometimes they make mistakes that lead us to think that maybe, just maybe, they forgot the rules of the game altogether. You know, stuff like incorrect yardage enforcement on penalties, giving a team an extra timeout, stuff like that. So here are 10 instances where it seemed like NFL refs totally forgot the rulebook. Number 10. Hands to face equals 5-yard penalty? In the NFL, illegal use of the hands to the face is a 10-yard penalty. The yardage is not a judgment call like pass interference. It's firmly entrenched in the rulebook. There is no disputing it whatsoever. 10 yards, plain and simple. But the officials forgot this during the Kansas City Chiefs-New England Patriots Week 14 2019 game, which was filled with officiating errors. Pats fans remember that one all too well. The early whistle that nullified a potential defensive fumble return for a touchdown, N'Keal Harry incorrectly being ruled out of bounds when he clearly scored a touchdown, and so on. But there was another officiating error that many folks watching probably didn't notice. During the third quarter, Chiefs offensive lineman Laurent Duvernay-Tardif was penalized for illegal use of the hands to the face. It should have been a 10-yard penalty, but the officials only enforced 5 yards, so KC only had to move from their own 44-yard line to the 39, and none of the referees noticed the mistake.
Illegal use of hands to the face.
Gill University is actually Dr. Duvernay-Tardif.
Well, the Patriots wound up blocking the ensuing punt, which led to a touchdown. They wound up losing 23-16, however, due in large part to several officiating miscues. The 5-yard hands to the face was one of them, and it cannot be disputed. After all, it's right there in the rulebook. Number 9. Derek Carr stays in bounds, ruled out of bounds. The Raiders hosted the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 15 of the 2019 season. This marked the franchise's final game in Oakland before their 2020 relocation to Las Vegas. Even with the Raiders out of the playoffs, they were obviously intent on rewarding the passionate and loyal fan base with one more victory. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, due in large part to a brutal officiating miscue. The Raiders led by 3 points with 2 minutes and 12 seconds remaining. Needing just one more first down to probably ice the game, Derek Carr faked the handoff and scrambled to the right for a first down, being sure to slide and stay in bounds. However, the officials incorrectly ruled that Carr went out of bounds, even though he clearly gave himself up. That should have ran the clock down to the 2-minute warning, but the miscue gave Jacksonville an extra clock stoppage. They only had one timeout left. Daniel Carlson proceeded to miss a field goal that would have extended the lead to 6. Gardner Minshew drove Jacksonville downfield and tossed the game-winning touchdown to Chris Conley. An angry John Gruden later revealed that he received an apology from Al Riveron, the NFL Senior Vice President of Officiating. A rightfully angry Gruden said he accepted it, but said the play cost us dearly. He's right, you know. Number 8. Santonio Holmes avoids excessive celebration penalty in Super Bowl. Santonio Holmes' game-winning touchdown pass in the final minute of Super Bowl 43 was so iconic and legendary that it's easy to forget about the ensuing controversy. After the TD, Holmes used the football to imitate LeBron James' pregame routine of tossing powder in the air. That led to a $10,000 fine for using the football as a prop for a touchdown celebration. Then NFL Vice President of Officiating and current Fox Rules analyst Mike Pereira later revealed that Holmes should have been issued a 15-yard penalty for the celebration. That would have been huge for the Arizona Cardinals, who would have gotten quality field position with 2 timeouts, needing a touchdown to win it. Instead, the Steelers only had to kick off from their 30, and the Cardinals only made it to the 22-yard line. Warner was strip-sacked in the waning seconds as the Steelers clinched their 6th Super Bowl. Number 7. Saints lose 15 seconds of clock time. The New Orleans Saints hosted the Houston Texans in Week 1 on Monday Night Football in the 2020 season. This was the team's first game since, you guessed it, the infamous no call. So how fitting that the Saints would be on the wrong side of an officiating blunder at the Superdome once again. Facing a 3rd and 17 situation with less than a minute to go, Drew Brees found Michael Thomas near the first down marker. The officials ruled him a yard short, and the clock began to run. However, they blew the whistle and upon further review, called it a first down. The officials, however, made a notable mistake with the game clock. They incorrectly placed 26 seconds on the clock, then placed a 10-second runoff, and the Saints missed a field goal before the end of the half.
To a running clock, we will take 10 seconds off the clock. We will reduce it to 16 seconds.
Al Riveron later explained that the refs should have put the game clock at 41 seconds, the remaining time when Thomas was ruled down. Then the officials would have to ask Sean Payton if he either wanted to use a timeout or take the 10-second runoff. So instead of 41 or 31 seconds left on the clock, the Saints somehow only got 16. Good thing they went on to win the game, or else the officials would have received even more scrutiny from New Orleans fans. Number 6. Seahawks avoid injury timeout. The first 3 games of the 2012 NFL season were marred by horrific replacement refereeing. The NFL's referees engaged in a lockout, and the league had no choice but to hire replacement officials. It was as disastrous as you could imagine. These officials made several unforgettable miscues that went against the rulebook. Take, for instance, the final seconds of the Seattle Seahawks-Arizona Cardinals Week 1 contest. According to the rulebook, after the 2-minute warning, a team must use a timeout if one of their players is injured. With 46 seconds left, Seahawks wide receiver Doug Baldwin was injured after attempting a catch in the end zone. That should have costed Seattle their final timeout. But 2 plays later, with 30 seconds left, Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll called a timeout, and the officials mistakenly granted it to him. The referee announced that Seattle had one last timeout remaining, and that the stoppage on the Baldwin injury was due to an incomplete pass, which doesn't make much sense. It was clearly an injury timeout, which the Seahawks would have been charged for. At any rate, Arizona forced a turnover on downs to win the game. But how the officials botched that was beyond us. Seattle totally got a free timeout there. Number 5, Tyreek Hill removes helmet on field of play, no penalty. This is another clear-cut rule. Removing your helmet on the field of play is a 15-yard penalty. No exceptions, even on touchdown celebrations. Well, the NFL refs clearly forgot this rule when the Kansas City Chiefs visited the Los Angeles Chargers at SoFi Stadium in Week 2 of the 2020 season. The Chargers were up by 8 early in the fourth quarter, until Patrick Mahomes tossed a beautiful 54-yard touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill. After rolling into the end zone, Hill proceeded to quickly remove his helmet, which should have drawn a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. It was right in front of the refs too. But no flag was thrown, and the Chiefs wound up making the 2-point conversion to tie the game. During the broadcast, former NFL referee and CBS NFL rules analyst Gene Steratore said that it was most definitely a penalty. If the officials remembered the rulebook and enforced it, the Chiefs would have surely attempted the extra point rather than try a long 2-point conversion. They wound up winning in overtime, so yes, the officials' error definitely helped Kansas City in their victory. Number 4, refs give Washington generous clock stoppage. The Washington football team visited the 11-0 Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 13 of the 2020 season. Just about everybody expected Pittsburgh to cruise to their 12th win of the season, but a major officiating miscue played a large part in preventing that from happening. With 23 seconds left in the first half, Washington quarterback Alex Smith was sacked. The visitors had no timeouts, and they had to quickly race out the field goal group. The clock hit 0, which should have ended the half. But after taking the sack, Smith caused a delay by running the football to the sidelines. The referees then put a few seconds back on the clock since the K-ball wasn't ready for them, and Dustin Hopkins booted a field goal before the end of the half. The former NFL referee and NBC rules analyst Terry McAuley explained that the officials are not supposed to stop the clock if the team on offense causes a delay, as was the case in Smith's situation. Their job was to let the clock run, but they incorrectly gave Washington the unnecessary stoppage that they needed to set up a field goal attempt. Washington pulled off the massive 23-17 upset. The Steelers, quite simply, got robbed. Number 3, 18-second runoff after a kickoff? NFL officiating mistakes are usually forgotten about as long as the team that got hosted actually wins the game. Take, for instance, the Pittsburgh Steelers in their Week 5 2015 Monday night game against the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers led 20-17 with 2 minutes and 56 seconds left. The ensuing kickoff went into the end zone for a touchback, but for whatever reason, 18 seconds were taken off the game clock. What? Now, the Steelers went on to win this game 24-20 thanks to Le'Veon Bell's game-winning touchdown on the final play. But there was no excuse for an inexplicable 18-second runoff. Side judge Rob Bernacchi was suspended for failing to spot the clock error. Of course, the scoreboard operator and the other 6 officials also deserve plenty of blame for this. Number 2, Matt Hasselbeck penalized on legal block. Super Bowl 40 was unfortunately overshadowed by the many horrendous officiating calls that only benefited the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Seattle Seahawks were robbed time and time again, and that is not up for debate. Some of these were judgment calls that most people would disagree with. But hey, a judgment call is a judgment call. The officials, however, went against the rulebook at a pivotal time in the game. With his team down by 4 and looking to take the lead, Seahawks quarterback Matt Hasselbeck threw a costly fourth-quarter interception to Ike Taylor. Hasselbeck hustled and managed to tackle Taylor, but he was penalized for a block below the waist. But as commentator Al Michaels explained, it's legal to make a low tackle. It's only a penalty if you tackle a blocker low like that, not the ball carrier. The Steelers gained an extra 15 yards and essentially put the game away when Antoine Randall L. threw a touchdown to Hines Ward on a trick play. As Michaels said, insult to injury. That was just awful all around. Number 1. Jim Harbaugh gets 2 extra challenges. NFL head coaches are allowed 2 challenges. If they both get them right, they're granted a 3rd. That's it. Another simple rule to follow. Oh, and if you don't have any timeouts remaining, you aren't allowed to challenge a play. But the NFL replacement refs overlooked this rule during the San Francisco 49ers Week 3 2012 road game against the Minnesota Vikings. San Fran trailed by 11 points with 3.5 minutes to go. 49ers head coach Jim Harbaugh called his final timeout after a Minnesota running play. Then, after using that final timeout, he asked the refs to challenge the play for a fumble. The officials mistakenly reviewed the play, even though he was out of timeouts, and the 49ers got the football back. And because San Fran won the challenge, Harbaugh was given his final timeout back. But that's not how it's supposed to work, refs.
Toby Gerhart, former Stanford Cardinal. Jim Harbaugh, of course, used to be his coach. Now, keep in mind, Niners have no more timeouts after they just broke.
Alex Smith proceeded to throw an interception that should have ended the game. Again, Minnesota ran the ball to melt the clock, but again, Harbaugh threw the challenge flag for a fumble, since the officials generously gave back his timeout on the previous challenge. The Vikings wound up retaining possession, and the constant delays did nothing to change the result. The home team won 24-13, even though Harbaugh was somehow given 2 extra challenges. But hey, in what other instances did the NFL refs forget the rulebook? Join us in the comments section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.